Good morning, welcome to Morning Outlook. This is Kim speaking on Tuesday the 5th of March. So looking at the euro dollar, and well, it's certainly on a trend to the downside, it would suggest at the moment. There's little to say any otherwise really. There's almost a divergence coming in but not broken. The sort of trend that was running across the highs there seems to have been broken now with what we've seen here a bit more clearly. When you come down the time frames, you see the lower highs, lower lows that are sort of running through here. Now we do have the daily pivot above us, which could, if we see the market pushing up this morning, become a target. It's also got resistance around there from a prior high, so maybe around that area, if it was to come in, it would be well worth watching. As I said, it could become some divergence, particularly if it pops in towards yesterday's lows there. That spike there would suggest that there was demand around that sort of area quite quickly. It didn't manage to hold down there, so we'll see, but it's not far off that sort of level at the moment, but there is the possibility it could sell off, as I say, and create some divergence on the hourly. Aside of that, well, as I said, bigger picture, it's looking sort of weak from here anyway. If you ignore the noise of the shorter time frames, maybe it still looks like it's got potential downside, but sometimes that noise is the signs of a change. Looking at the pound dollar, the pound to yesterday sold off a little bit further than I expected in the end. It's put lower high, lower low in from last week, actually midweek there really. It's not managed to hold on to anything since then, and it's heading a bit further south and errs towards the weaker side in my analysis. Short term, we do have a daily pivot above, which again we could see price running up to this. Now this, I mean, we've seen price pull up to that sort of, pull back up to its 50 yesterday. Could pull back up to that sort of level again today. It'd be interesting if it does, to see what it actually does, if there's potential to short into that sort of level. No obvious divergence between the two recent lows here. Let's just look on the RSI with nothing really there. It's too long a distance. So no, just a potential for a pullback towards that sort of area. Dollar yen. Dollar yen, to me, it's yen continues to be weak, which allows a potential upside, but had a bit of a corrective move yesterday, not massively though. It's still got a weekly pivot below. It's pushing up here now. If it starts breaking down again, maybe it's just not got the legs at the moment, the dollar, to push up any further. And you can see it's just, well, it's already caught the daily pivot there. It's got a weekly pivot untouched below. Got potential to roll over. I was looking at it yesterday, see if it broke. Well, it did eventually break the highs there, but not with any sort of no real momentum got behind it, and it stalled and rolled. We could get the same sort of roll over this morning. I say this morning, today even, but how much of a roll? Well, we'll see. But there's signs through these markets that there could be a bit of a change, for, at least for a small period. So small period, but there's pivots to be attacked. Aussie dollar, this remains weak in my book. The data overnight, RBA statement didn't really help that factors. They just left everything as a loan. I've been looking at this and wondering whether it's going to break down properly here. There's a lot of previous support and resistance around this area, resistance back here, support's been used a number of times, and you just wonder how long it is before it will roll over. Fundamentally there's weakness sort of showing there, and it could continue in that way. Now we've got the Reserve Bank of Australia governor speaking at 10:10 p.m. this evening. That's much later then, which could obviously have an effect on this. Okay, quite a significant effect, of course, he did last time, but we could see this breakdown at some point. Okay, Aussie dollar and finally Canadian dollar, looking from a daily point here. Well, Canadian dollar, tomorrow I think it is, we've got the Canadian Central Bank, the Bank of Canada meet. There's a wide speculation that they're going to be a bit more dovish in their tone from where they were a few months ago, when they were suggesting the next increase would be there'll be a further increase rather. Next increase will be not too far away, data dependent. But the data itself, as we saw on Friday, wasn't great, well, these markets are maybe pricing in a bit of a more dovish tone, but looking soft at the moment and potential further upside. It did have a bit of divergence yesterday, but never broke the lows of that, and it's just continued in its upward move there. So as you can see on the hourlies here, there was divergence coming in, but just continued pushing up. So at the moment it still looks to me bullish, although, well, there'll be many that argue there's a bit of double divergence, and there is, quite rightly so, a bit of double divergence across this area. Maybe if we were to see a break of the lows here from yesterday evening, it could give us a bit more confirmation to the downside, maybe towards that weekly pivot. But as I said, with the data that's coming out and the fundamentals aren't particularly good at the moment. Now it may all change when the Bank of Canada meets, but there we are. Okay, that's that. Finally, just news-wise today, we've got services PMI for the UK at 9:30. That is one of the key factors in our GDP number. It's been downgraded by Forex Factory, but it still can create quite a bit of volatility. So that's at 9:30. Admittedly, it hasn't so much recently. We've got FOMC speaker at 12:30, due to speak about the economic outlook and monetary policy in the National Association of Corporate Directors in Boston. And there's questions expected there, so things could happen there. 3 o'clock we got the ISM non-manufacturing or services PMI. So and Carney at 3:35. Bank of England Governor Carnage doing his best to talk some pessimism into our markets. Right, that's it for me. Have a great one. Bye for now.